Hello, hello everyone. I'm Sneha, the session for this session. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this session. It's wonderful to have such a knowledgeable group of scholars, researchers, and enthusiasts with us today. I am sure this session will be filled with great discussions and valuable ideas. We are honored to have Dr. Ranvijay sir from School of International Studies in JNU with as the session chair. With his knowledge and experience, this session will surely be insightful and engaging. Now I invite Dr. Ranvijay sir to take over and lead the session. Over to you, sir.
Do you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. It is no coincidence that Indian scholars are widely represented in intercultural philosophy, and I am speaking today about Indian philosophers' involvement in intercultural philosophy.
Okay.
It can be said that this
good
is
afternoon to all of you.
Genetic prerequisites.
Am I audible? Sneha?
Yes,
something wrong?
You are audible.
Yeah. It is no coincidence that Indian scholars are widely represented in intercultural philosophy. It can be said that this is due to the genetic prerequisites laid down in Indian civilization. What does it mean? A short answer could be the inclusivity of Indian civilization. The well-known German Indologist William Haltwas widely used this term, though he admitted that the first who used it was Paul Hecker in 1956. However, he and those who use this same terminology usually meant the inclusive nature of Hinduism in relation to Christianity. Hinduism is a phenomenon much later than the Indian civilization. For a long time, it was believed that the subcontinent didn't know its own civilization before the arrival of the Aryans. The first data just...
Hello?
Everybody, though I am sure all of you
Hello.
may know that. The first data on
Hello.
the existence of pre-Aryan civilization in Western India was published only in the 19th century.
Am I audible to everyone?
Something wrong?
Hello.
Okay. The Harappan civilization developed
Am I
in
audible
the
to everyone?
Indus Valley in Bronze Age. How and by whom was this ancient civilization created? There are different opinions on this matter. According to one of them, which is not the most popular, but still we are to keep that in mind.
So
according to one of them, it owes its origin to immigrants from the southern India, the Dravidians, whose origins are very complex
starting the session once again. I'm Sneha.
They are regarded as
of this session, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you all to this session.
But may have
it's wonderful to have such a knowledgeable group of scholars, researchers, and enthusiasts with us today. I am sure this session will be filled with great discussions and valuable ideas. We are honored to have Dr. Ranvijay sir from School of International Studies,
that the encounter
JNU, as the session chair. With his knowledge and experience, this session will surely be
It is
insightful and
assumed that the
engaging.
plot of the
Now I
Ramayana
invite
is allegorical
Dr.
in
Ranvijay sir
nature
to take
and
over
depicts the spread
and
of
lead
the
the
Aryan
session.
civilization to the south of the India to island of Ceylon or Sri Lanka. Ramayana inspired almost all Indians, including, of course, first of all,
Dr.
Indian
Ranvijay sir,
writers,
hello.
Indians leaders, the thinkers like Kalidas, Rabindranath Tagore, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Mahatma Gandhi, characters such as Rama, Sita, Lakshman, Bharata, Hanuman, and Ravana are integral elements of the cultural consciousness of India.
I think there's a glitch
However,
from Dr.
the
Ranvijay
name
sir.
Rama is unpopular among Sri Lankans. The very legend of Rama and Sita in medieval Sinhalese poetry
Okay, so
presented
Sneha,
as a
I'm
work
unable to hear
that is,
anything.
I
I'm not
quote,
getting any
told by
audio
people
here. But
who
anyway, I
follow
introduce
erroneous
myself.
views, unquote.
I don't know whether I'm
The
audible or
hymns
not.
of Rigveda
So
report
let
on
me confirm,
constant
Sneha, am I
clashes
audible?
between Aryans and the local tribes. The compilers of hymns depicted enemies as outwardly unattractive, rejecting the Vedic gods, not knowing the rules of
Okay, but
sacrifice. And yet,
I'm unable to hear
in the end,
anything
it was
from
possible to
the
avoid the
audience side.
destruction of
So
one
let me
civilization for the sake of prosperity
start.
of another. The
So,
guarantee
good
of
afternoon to all of you, and very
tolerance
much
laid
welcome in
down
this
in Shruti,
seminar.
texts, and above
So,
all
I
in
would, without wasting
the
time, I
only
would
way
just
to
like to
preserve the
introduce our
culture,
panels. So, in today's panel, we have Professor
the only
Marietta
way to preserve the
Spanians.
culture of race,
Uh,
which was in
Sir, you are
great
not
danger
audible to
of being
everyone, and
the
the first
destroyed
title
presenter is
of
already
the
presenting the
prestige
paper.
of the native
uh,
population
his
was to fix
work
as the
is philosophy
divided
as
whole
inclusive
the
character of
existing cultural
Indian
and racial
civilizations.
characteristics.
Professor
The institution
Marietta
of caste
is
of Varnas
a
as
science
originally
professor, honorary
introduced
scholar
by
of
Christian
Russia.
means
Uh,
solved the racial
she is
problem,
like
which
the
other
chairholder
people
of the
had
UNESCO
solved
Chair
with
Philosophy
iron
in
and
Dialogue
wood.
of Culture since
By that, I
2008,
don't
and so
want to
many others
say that
uh,
I am
details for
those who
this
support caste system.
professorage.
I just
Uh,
want to
the uh, the
emphasize the
abstract of
fact
her
itself and quote
presentation
from
is
Radha
philosophy as
Krishna,
inclusive
great
character of
Indian philosopher,
Indian civilization.
who in his
Uh,
famous
we
two
have
volumes
with
of
us
Indian philosophy
Reshma
wrote,
Maharaj.
I quote,
Uh,
when the European
Dr. Reshma
races
Maharaj is a senior lecturer
were
in the Department
defeated by
of Graphic
others,
Design.
they
She
tried to
believes
make
that the field continues to
vanquish,
present theoretically
vanquish,
significant and
forget
practice
human dignity
relevant
and
questions
deprive
that have
them
yet to
of
be fully
self-respect.
explored. So,
The caste system made it possible to
abstract
preserve
of
the integrity and
is
independence of both the
are mapping
victorious
my
and the
becoming
vanquished
insights on
races,
practice
and to
as
promote
living through the
mutual
tapestry
trust
of
and harmony.
Indian
That is
knowledge.
the evaluation done by
I
Radhakrishnan.
guess there are some
The
problem.
inclusive
I'm not
principle of ordering
able to
and
hear anything
extremely rich
from
cultural mosaic
the
could not but
audience. But
find
anyway,
place
I'm just
in
introducing our guests.
itself in
The
philosophical
next
sphere.
guest is
Indian
Dr.
spiritual
Julie
life, both
Rocton. Dr.
classical
Julie
and
Rocton
scholastic
is associate
periods,
researcher
was
at
distinguished by an incredible
CPFTD
wealth of commentary
MAMX
literature
Provence,
of various
France.
genres. Some scholars have
Associate
suggested
researcher
that
at
this
that center, that
spirit of
laboratory.
discussion
The
was fostered
the
by a
topic of
pluralistic
presentation is
approach to truth
description,
whether
prescription,
secular or
teaching, and
secular,
performance,
which in turn was
multiple
favored
functions
by
and
Indian
practices of
polytheism, which was more tolerant
Nandikeśvaram
of the coexistence of consciousness
Abhinayadarpaṇa,
and believed that
co-edited and
monotheism.
co-translated polymorphous treatise.
The richness
Our
of
next
hermeneutic tradition
speaker
that
is
distinguished
Professor
India has given
Satyanad
it a
Kichenassamy.
special place in
Professor
international policy,
Satyanand
which aims
Kichenassamy
to
is
put
a French
an end to
mathematician,
Eurocentric
and
claim that the
he would
Western
be
type of philosophy I think it's the
talking
obvious
on
one.
Indian knowledge system underlying the
The
invention
founder
of
and president
rigorous
of the
mathematical
International
reasoning.
Society
So
for
he believes
Cultural
the
Philosophy, as well
he believes
as the
the
co-editor
Indian
of the series
the
Studies
Indian
into Cultural
contribution in the
Philosophy, is an
mathematics is
Indian, and that is very
immense.
important to stress upon. It is Professor
So
Ramadharma. He was
our
one of the first to review the
another
content
scholar
of
is
cultural philosophy in
Soumya
the most
Verma.
famous
Soumya
book
Verma is a
on
legal
cultural
scholar
philosophy,
specializing in
published
intellectual
in
property rights, a
2000.
gold medalist in
He
BA
proceeds
LLB
from
from
the
Dr. Hari Singh Gaur
understanding
Central
of the
University.
differences
She is from
existing between
India.
philosophies
The topic of
and
our
special
presentation is
cases of
harnessing blockchain technology for preserving ancient Indian intellectual property and traditional wisdom. Our next scholar is Dr. Virgin Johan. Virgin Johan holds a PhD in Performing Arts, University of Paris. The title of the work is Distance in Performance from Indian to European Theatrical Stages. So he will be talking on the theatrical about the theaters, comparing with the Indian and the Indian and the European experiences. So our next scholar is Johanna Jurevich. Johanna is a PhD, is a professor at the University of Warsaw and chair of South Asia Studies. The abstract of her presentation is what does Madhu Vidya tell us? So again, I welcome all of our experts of the Indian knowledge system, and I again welcome to all of you to begin with the presentation. So I will just have a pause. I'm unable to listen, like get the audio. So I'll just have a pause for 1 or 2 minutes. I'll talk to our colleague, uh, and then I'll come back to you.
Oui. On m'a demandé de réactiver mon son, je ne sais pas pourquoi.
Hello. Sneha ma'am? Sneha ma'am, are you there? Sneha ma'am?
Sneha is there, ma'am, but I could not
Sir,
hear
I
this
would like to
presenter.
say something that first presenter is already speaking, but I think she is not audible to the session chair and to everyone of us. So kindly contact her and let her know that she is not audible.
Not responding.
Sir, I think she is still speaking and she is not able to read the messages. Also, I directly message her from the Zoom. She is not able to read the messages as well.
Yeah. There were problems with the sound. No,
Hi, ma'am. There is some issue with the audio, I think.
The solidarity of previous colonial peoples leads to the restoration of understanding of diversity of inherited past. To substantiate his position, Gane returns to the logic of Nyaya-darshan. The Nyaya syllogism has 5 terms, not 3 as in Aristotle. It doesn't follow from the variability of practice of reasoning that the idea of justification itself is context dependent. It follows that there is a variability in the basic set of examples and types of information that indicate the similarity of judgments. Norms and transsectorial and at the same time dialogical. Newly born philosophy asserts a commitment to the conviction of the existence of many ways of cognition of reality, of a variety of ways of thinking, which cannot be reduced to one, let alone to a colonial method. Do I have still time? Am I speak more? It is. I used my time.
Ma'am, coordinator is away, I think. So kindly wait.
I
The
should
session
end.
coordinator is not here. So kindly wait.
Okay.
Okay.
Jonathan Gannery welcomes the advent of the era of post-comparative philosophy.
Ma'am, the session chair will introduce you once again. Then we will continue with it. Can you please wait for the session chair to come?
I'm sorry, I can't.
Just 2 or 3 minutes, ma'am.
I beg your pardon.
Just 2 or 3 minutes, ma'am. Let the session chair come.
Somehow there is some problems with my hearing. I don't know why. So could you say again?
Hello, ma'am. Let the session chair join the meeting. He is having a network problem right now. That's why it is delaying.
Okay. Well,
Okay,
thank you. I think I should stop then. Thank you.
Yeah.
Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, now. So I could not it was difficult for me to continue with. So I introduce now our esteemed speaker, Professor Marietta Stepanients. Professor Marietta, she is professor and honored scholar of Russia since 1959. She is a fellow of the Institute of Philosophy, and she has uh, like a very big career of academics. A lot of awards she has been awarded that we all have shared to each other. She has been the UNESCO chair, the Philosophy in Dialogue of Cultures since 2008. The first vice chancellor of the FISP 2000 and 2013, and she has earned so many awards, so many medals. Uh, so the topic of Professor Marietta is philosophy as inclusive character of Indian civilization. I welcome you, Professor. Please go ahead with your thought. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm afraid I haven't suggested. Have you suggested me to start again?
I guess you could go ahead. You were already talking on the topic.
Oh, so you couldn't hear me before.
I could not, but I think most of the audience have heard you. So, but I have gone through your abstract.
No, you see, Julie Rocton, she showed to me that she could hear me. Have you heard me, Julie?
Yes, at the beginning, but then people were speaking at the same time, so it was not audible.
Okay, so the sound was not good. But if I speak now, can you hear me now?
Yes, please, ma'am.
Yes.
You can speak now.
So should I start from the very beginning?
Yes, I think so. You could.
Huh? No, you don't think so. You see, I shall give my. I have sent my paper, so it is with the organizers, and I don't want to take your time because if I speak again, then I take the time of the others. Is it so or not? Are the others too have problems? Because I can stay, yeah, of course I can again say, but will it be good or not? I don't know. Okay, I will say a few words and you show me, do you hear me or not? It is no coincidence that Indian scholars are widely represented in cultural philosophy. It can be said that this is due to the genetic prerequisites laid down in Indian civilization. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. What does it mean, inclusive genetic? A short answer could be the inclusivity of Indian civilization. Well-known German Indologist William Halfas widely used this term, though he admitted that it was not he himself who was the first to introduce it, but it was British Indologist Paul Hecker in 1956. However, those who used this terminology usually meant not civilization Indian, but only Hinduism in relation to Christianity. However, is phenomena much later than the Indian civilization, and the inclusive character of Indian civilization has been demonstrated from the very beginning. For a long time, and beginning was, as you know, for a long time it was believed the subcontinent Indian didn't know its own civilization before the arrival of the Aryans. It was, I remember as I was a student, it was said that Aryans have brought civilization to India. But in 19th century, there was a discovery expedition by John Marshall, and the Harappan civilization developed in Hindu River in Bronze area has been discovered. How and by whom was this in ancient civilization created? There are different opinions in this matter. According to one of them, I would not say that I am supporting this position, but I should refer to it because it is one in quite spread. According to one of them, it owes its origin to immigrants from southern India. So the Dravidians, whose origin are very complex subject of research and debate. They are regarded as indigenous to the Indian subcontinent, but may have deeper pre-Neolithic roots from Western Asia, especially from Iranian plateau. Is it unlikely that encounter of these two civilizations, Harappan and Dravidian, could be exclusively peaceful? It is assumed that the plot of the Ramayana epos is allegorical in nature and depicts the spread of the Aryan civilization to the south of India, to the island of Sri Lanka or Ceylon. Ramayana inspired, of course, all Indians, in particular great names like Kalidasa, Rabindranath Tagore, Nehru, and Mahatma Gandhi, and so on. However, the name Rama is unpopular among Sri Lankans. The very legend of Rama and Sita in medieval Sinhalese poetry is presented as a work that is told by, I quote, by people who follow erroneous views. So it means that attitude was negative. At the same time, the hymns of Rigveda report on constant clashes between Aryans and the local tribes. The compilers of the hymns depicted as outwardly unattractive, rejecting Vedic gods, not knowing the rules of subscribe. And yet, in the end, it was possible to avoid the destruction of one civilization for the sake of the prosperity of another. The guarantee of this was a tolerance laid down in sacred, in Shruti text, and above all in the Vedas. The only way to preserve the culture of race, which was in grave danger of being dissolved in the superstition of the native population, was to fix as well an iron as with an iron hook the existing cultural and racial characteristics. So the institution of caste was introduced. In fact, it was, as I read many times in many sources, it was inherited from Iran, where they have 3 varnas, and here in India they introduced 4. The Institute of Caste, as originally introduced by peaceable means, solves the racial problem with other people, solved which other people had solved with iron and blood. Here I may refer to the quotation from Radhakrishnan's Indian Philosophy volume. He wrote, Radhakrishnan, when the European races were defeated by others, they tried to make the vanquished forget human dignity and deprive them of the respect. The caste system made it possible to preserve the integrity and independence of both the victorious and the vanquished races and to promote mutual trust and harmony, unquote. Of course, that was maybe true and just in the time when Radhakrishnan wrote and to the time he referred. But as we know, in nowadays there are many problems with the caste system and many discussions, but still in constitution they were not cancelled. The inclusive principle of ordering an extremely rich culture could not but manifest itself in the philosophical sphere. Indian spiritual life in both the classical and scholastic periods was distinguished by incredible wealth of commentary literature of various genres. Commentary means expressing many opinions, trying to discover the deep truth in the text and so on. Some scholars have suggested that the spirit of discussion was fostered by a pluralistic approach to truth, whether secular or sacred, which in turn was favored in Indian polytheism, which was more tolerant of the coexistence of diversity in beliefs than monotheism. This richness of hermeneutic tradition that distinguishes India has given it a special place in intercultural philosophy, which aims to put an end to the Eurocentric claim that the Western type of philosophizing is the only one. The founder and president of the International Society for Intercultural Philosophy, an Indian, Professor Reimagining, he was one of the first to reveal the content of intercultural philosophy in the world-famous book, Intercultural Philosophy, published in 2000 year. He proceeds from the understanding of the differences existing between philosophy, especially case of one phenomenon in its sense. He considers equally erroneous the assertion of the commensurability and the complete incommensurability of the concept of different culture. He proposes to abandon them and replace them with a thesis of dynamically overlapping structures. Dynamically overlapping structures. Complete identity, he says, leads philosophy to a dead end, and complete distinction does not allow even the slightest agreement between the methods of philosophizing. Dharma, He proposes the idea of analogous hermeneutics, which he in some way borrowed from Jain philosophy, from Jain's Anekantavada, the doctrine of non-one-sidedness, a kind of epistemological theory of relativity. Anekantavada, which in Sanskrit means many-sidedness, the doctrine on non-inclusivity, recognizes reality as multidimensional and multifaceted. As a result, it can be perceived different depending on the point of view. From this follows the conclusion: no point of view on reality is the only correct one. The Anekanta contains the doctrines of Najavada and Sayavada. The first is the doctrine of points of view. The interpretation of the experiment from one point of view alone was compared by the Jains to the mistake made by 7 blind men who simultaneously groped an elephant. Everyone decided that it was the part of the animal's body that they were feeling that represented the elephant's true body. Recognizing different point of view as complementary is the best methodological move in support of intercultural understanding. Points of view may be opposite or even mutually exclusive, but they don't cease to be points of view. The Jain doctrine of Anekantavada, according to great Indian philosophy of modern times, Professor Bimal Motilal, who said that philosophical, I quote him, no philosophical metaphysical proposition can be true if it is asserted without any condition of limitation, unquote. A passionate adherent of intercultural philosophy is Janardhan Ganeri. He belongs to a much younger generation than Dharmal, Motilal, Bimal Motilal, etc. He was born in India in 1963. And he had education in the West, but under the great impact of Bimal Motilal, he turned to philosophy from mathematics, and nowadays he holds the Bimal Motilal Chair in Toronto University. The most interesting of his texts of Ganeri's text is Manifesto for Emergent Philosophy. By using the adjective re-emergent to the word philosophy, Ganeri means that Western philosophy is only one of the philosophical traditions. Philosophy as such acquires its full meaning if it includes the traditions of philosophies in plural that exist outside the Western world. In short, for this, it needs to be born again. So emerging, it means born again, to become full as it used to be in ancient times. European philosophers of colonial era are harshly criticized in Manifesto for falsely asserting the neutrality of their rationality. Ganeri says, quotes them, Western philosophers who was of that opinion. I quote, use reason as we Westerners do, or admit that you are beyond rationality, and in fact do not engage in philosophy at all, unquote. The history of Western epistemology describes itself as the only epistemology that exists in the world, while the rest of the world has culture, or at the best, wisdom. In fact, I had this experience, my own experience, when one of my book, the book on introduction of Eastern philosophies, was prepared for publication in English in the United States. The publishers didn't want to put the title Eastern philosophies. He preferred to have Eastern wisdom. So that's a typical approach. The solidarity of previous colonial peoples leads to the restoration of an understanding of the diversity of inherited past. To substantiate his position, Gunnar returns to the logic of Abhinayadarpaṇa. The strong supporter of intercultural philosophy, it is Arindam Chakravarti. He is Indian, born maybe 1969. Currently, she is a professor of philosophy at Ashoka University in India. I know him very well because for 15 years I was closely cooperated with West East Philosophy Conference in Hawaii. We was the president of two of them, and of course Arindam and with his wife, we closely cooperated at that time. Chakravarti published a book which has the title Comparative Philosophy Without Borders. He edited it together with American colleague. Ganeri is impressed by Chakravarti's, as he says, revolutionary spirit and his commitment to achieve radical changes. What does it do they mean by radical changes? Ganeri writes, as soon as we emerge from, it's Chakravarti, as soon as we emerge from the petty wealth of epistemic injustice that has not been recognized for centuries and reach the level of global, critical, creative philosophy, we will be able to discard the ladder of comparison, with comparative philosophy. What both of them in Ganeri finalize. I fully share such thesis, a wonderful call to take up arms. So what both of them are saying is that comparative studies were good in the beginning because it was the beginning of going away from negating the existence of Western philosophy, but it was comparative studies have been done mainly in favor of Western positions, and Eastern traditions were not valid as much as the Western. So those manifestos are landmark texts of the post-colonial era, the main character of which include the movement for liberation from intellectual dependence through the use of intercultural method of philosophizing that allows philosophy to be born anew. Thank you. Would you hear now the whole paper? Julie, thank you for understanding. Thank you.
Yes. Shall we, I don't know. Sir?
Hello.
Okay, so yes. So thank you, Professor. You have given a very uh, comprehensive idea about the plurality of the Indian philosophy, like since from the ancient time to modern time, it's in continuity. Thank you very much. Now I uh, 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 I request to Dr. Resham. Our next speaker is Dr. Reshma Maharajh.
Hi,
Right?
everyone.
So now I request Dr. Reshma Maharaj to have their idea about your topic. Yes, very much welcome.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes, you are audible.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Can you see my screen? All right. Thank you to all the organizers for this opportunity. And I'm going to be talking about mapping my becoming, insights on practice, weaving through the tapestry of Indian knowledge. I'm from the University of Johannesburg in South Africa. So this paper explores my journey that engages art practice through the perspectives of a South African Indian woman as I navigate the space of my being, trying to make sense of self and interpreting my emotions through the aesthetic theory of rasa. So rasa serves as an empowering methodology to engage both identity constructs and subject formation while interweaving the art-making process. And this exploration examines the impact of my contemporary westernized gaze on my South African Indian Hindu culture as it permutates my colonized identity. This perspective informs my sociocultural decolonial interpretation of experiences, guiding me towards finding oneness within my fragmented self. Through this lens, the use of rasa becomes not only an artistic methodology, but also a decolonial strategy, one that dismantles the binary oppositions of sacred secular, cognition transcendental, self-other imposed by colonial epistemologies. So the concept of transferability aids in the emerging process, allowing the emergence of a higher collective consciousness. Within transferability, I aim to draw attention to epistemological artistic intentions and transferability into everyday ontological truths. I draw on the difference between Western and Vedic injunctions as the artistic process results in cognitive awareness and understanding. The latter is a relinquishing of cognizance of the mind, intelligence, and ego, and the transcendental emotional connection to oneness. Sorry, I'm just trying to, I'm not sure why I can't. All right, so the form comes, autoethnography as a qualitative research method merges storytelling with ethnographic analysis, allowing researchers to explore the lived experiences in broader cultural, social, and political contexts. And autoethnography turns the analytical lens inwards, positioning the researcher as both the subject and observer, where the personal experiences reveal insights about systematic issues and lived realities. So this methodological and philosophical synergy suggests that autoethnography and rasa are not merely research tools, but a mode to self-inquiry that captures the complexities of life's challenges. As I perform this autoethnography through being, I reflect on my embodied knowledge, critical self-reflection, creative expression, and intersectionality. In my practice, this relationship begins as an internal process before being externalized. It mirrors the transcendental moment becoming part of the oneness in performance, an intimate self-reflective state that is first experienced internally and then shared with an external audience if necessary. My creative practice is not concerned with the external audience, but rather focuses on my position as both a performer and audience within the performance itself. Moving my boundaries meant looking at my roots and reconnecting with the concept of body-mind beyond my space. In my practice, rasa acts as both a guiding principle and a structured tool for crafting meaningful experiences. It enabled me to channel my emotions in a more refined and heightened manner, allowing for the transformation of personal experiences into an ethicized form. Rather than merely expressing personal emotions, an artist engaging in rasa actively distills and reattunes them to achieve a heightened state of artistic engagement. This transformation allows the performance not only communicate emotions effectively, but also to transcend subjectivity and access a broader shared affective space. It aligns with contemporary notions of the affect theory, which explores how emotions are produced, transmitted, and experienced in artistic and social contexts. In this sense, rasa serves as a bridge between the personal and the universal, offering a framework to explore how the internal experiences resonates with the larger cultural and aesthetic context. Aligning with autoethnography, which involves the narrative analysis of personal experiences to uncover broader societal and existential insights. Thus, the artist does not merely experience emotions, but consciously enacts and reflects upon them, fostering a deeper awareness of the self in relation to the lived experience. Sarah Ahmed believes that the affect theory, which holds that emotions are shaped by historical and political contexts, are not just personal experiences, but rather is positioned within the larger social structures like race, gender, colonialism, and so forth. Rasa suggests that emotions like shingara, love, or bhayanaka, fear, are cultivated through art and performance. Ahmed's critique aligns with the Vedic idea that emotions are interdependent, and these interactions are between Atma, the self, karma, action, and dharma, duty. However, the Bhakti tradition embraces emotions like longing and sorrow as paths to spiritual realization, as Bhakti poets Mirabai, who valorized emotions. The Natya Shastra does not distinguish between the sacred and the aesthetic. Rather, it positions artistic practice as ritualistic, ontological, and transformative. The purpose of rasa is not merely to provoke emotional catharsis, but to dissolve ego consciousness, allowing for a transcendence of personal subjectivity into universal experience. Brahmananda Sahodara, the experience of rasa is akin to the experiencing divine bliss. So, as a South African Hindu woman engaged in artistic practice, I navigate complex intersections of gender, race, culture, and spirituality, often within the legacies of colonialism and patriarchy. To move beyond the boundaries of resilience, I apply affect theory, autoethnography, and rasa theory to reframe experiences not just as resilience, but as active, effective transformation and agency. Traditionally, women of color in South Africa have been framed through resilience narratives, stories of survival from indenture of the 1860s, migration, apartheid, oppression, and contemporary gendered struggles. South African Hindu women are often associated with suffering, sacrifice, or silent strength in cultural narratives. Excuse me. As I create a dance performance on memories, I am not just recalling resilience, but actively shaping the emotional discourse. And as a visual artist, if I paint Hindu goddess in ways that challenge traditional depictions, like showing Kali with exhaustion or Lakshmi rejecting materialism, I reshape effective expectations around South African femininity. So as a South African Hindu female artist, I try and reclaim Rudra, anger, Veera, and Adbhuta by way of moving beyond victimhood and resilience into assertion and transformation. Excuse me. So performance art, as I practice it, is rooted in the interplay of time, space, body, and mind, interconnected through sensory experience and the elemental forces described in Hindu philosophy. The five senses, sight, smell, taste, hearing, and touch, align with fire, air, water, ether, and earth, respectively. This elemental connection allows for the transcendence that bridges the body, mind, and soul, guiding one toward an understanding of oneness or consciousness. As both Kathakar, a storyteller and dancer, and autoethnographer, I am the subject and object of my investigation, striving to comprehend my totality beyond identity development, but by analyzing the fundamental ingredients of my being. This primordial focus on elemental and rasa relationships lends itself to the nuanced interpretation of being. I apply these principles to the dance and life, recognizing the rigorous discipline required to master the physical. The technical embodiment allows for the transcendence, where storytelling emerges effortlessly, culminating in moments of bliss, ananda. This is TAM, what I call transcendental emotional moment, a state in which material and subtle notions of self dissolve, allowing for an immersive experience beyond time and space. The emotion causes me to navigate the neural pathways of my historicity and pinpoint the exact external stimuli that later become stored in my body and mind. Leo Tolstoy defines art as a transmission of emotions, enabling others to experience shared feelings. This concept aligns with my exploration of self, reconstruction, and transferability, where the elements serve as pathways to balance inner values with external expressions, summarized as follows. So, breath work, prana, is fundamental in aligning energy and facilitating chakra alignment. The state of TEM dissolves self-consciousness, integrating performance into a unified existence. Earth, or Prithvi, embodies divine feminine energy, intuition, and love. According to Sherwood and Harding, the 10th chakra, located beneath the feet, anchors individuals to the earth. Walking barefoot strengthens this connection, nurturing intuition and emotional depth. In Kathak, dancers honor this bond through prayers before and after performances, acknowledging movement as sacred. Water, or Jal, signifies transformation and ancestral continuity, linking past, present, and future. It represents birth, purification, and emotional adaptability, resonating with rasa, the essence of human experience. Ritual water-based practices cleanse energy fields and connect individuals to their lineage. The lotus thriving in murky water symbolizes resilience and purity. Water also governs the throat chakra, influencing communication and emotional expression. A balanced throat chakra fosters clarity, while imbalances result in communication difficulties. Fire, or Agni, possesses purificatory and destructive properties integral to Hindu rites, such as marriage and cremation. The cosmic dance of Shiva embodies creation and destruction, mirroring the dual nature of fire. Fire symbolizes knowledge, dispelling ignorance, and governs the sacral chakra, regulating digestion, both physical and emotion. Emotional repression manifests through digestive distress, illustrating the mind-body connection. Air, or Vayu, embodies breath, motion, and presence, playing a vital role in Kathak's chakras, which create visual and energetic upliftments. Breathwork before practice clears mental clutter, enhancing focus. The alignment aligns with the white soul star chakra, fostering spiritual awareness. And ether, or akasha, facilitates sound transmission and serves as the foundation of material existence. As the first element to manifest and the last to dissolve, it holds significance in dance and life. Space, whether physical or emotional, influences perception. A liberating or constraining force, it shapes experiences and interactions. The phrase, "a person's energy speaks volumes," underscores ether's role in communication and presence. Creating intentional space fosters clarity and self-awareness. The mind, or man, governs attention and presence. A scattered mind breeds instability, whereas a centered mind cultivates a peace. Prayer, or pratna, acts as a grounding practice, allowing for emotional release. Tears serve as both expression of distress and vessels for liberation. Infusing spirituality into daily actions transforms routine into devotion. The altar becomes a space for the mental purification, guiding one towards inner serenity. Intelligence, or buddhi, directs the mind's actions. The Bhagavad Gita by Prabhupada likens the body to the chariot, with the intelligence as the driver, the mind as the reins, the senses as horses. Intelligence ideally governs the mind, yet often struggles against its resistance. In my artistic practice, intelligence refines movement, music, and historical comprehension, shaping both performance and personal decision-making. The challenge lies in discerning whether intelligence stems from fear, institutionalism, divine guidance, or intuition. So the individual is the passenger in this material body, with intelligence as the driver and mind as the reins. The senses, like horses, pull the chariot, and the self experiences joy or suffering based on this interaction. In my art and dance, I use intelligence to analyze scriptures, music, and choreography, refining my artistic and personal growth. The same discernment extends to life, determining when to respond to or to remain silent. Yet I question, is intelligence mere memory and a critical thought, or does it encompass adaptability and wisdom? Intelligence leads to the realization that I am not merely a body, but an eternal soul, the lotus emerging from the depths. Ego or ahankar influences one's spiritual journey, either as an obstacle or a tool for self-realization. In Sanskrit literature, ego is the final barrier to enlightenment. Rasa, in its purest form, transcends ego to attain ananda. In my artistic performance, releasing judgment and performing without self-consciousness diminishes ego-driven fears. The crown chakra, represented by the blossoming purple lotus, marks this transcendence. When activated, it releases divine energy, leading to TM and moksha, liberation from rebirth. The soul, or Atma, is the eternal essence beyond physical existence, where mind, intelligence, and ego harmonize. Self-realization shifts identity from the material self to the divine. So Hindu philosophy equates this understanding with Brahma, the supreme divinity. The Bhagavad Gita by Sankaracharya describes the soul as an eternal fragment of the divine, engaging with the material world through sensory experience. The ultimate goal encapsulated in Aham Brahmasmi. I am the eternal soul. The world is unity with the cosmic existence. I have a small piece of wine that I've done, which I will speak about. So, the emotional and psychological turmoil experienced upon entering marriage and motherhood without a support system evoked a profound scene of entrapment. This internal discord did not stem from my husband and children, but rather from the tension between my desire to explore the world and the restrictive expectations of a patriarchal family structure. My artwork sought to recreate the atmosphere of my wedding day, capturing it with both a mobile phone and a camera to evoke the aesthetic of the 1990s. These deeply ingrained memories shape neural pathways tied to the transformative experience of marriage and the transition into the roles of wife and daughter-in-law. Through artistic experimentation, I explore the subject-object nexus and the transformative aesthetic experience through performance. A fundamental problem in Western epistemology is the subject-object divide, the notion that the knower is separate from the known. This separation underlies dualistic knowledge structures, where art is either a subjectively expressive practice, like romanticism or psychoanalysis, or a distant object of critique, like structuralism and postmodernism. By contrast, Vedic and rasa-based epistemologies reject this dualism, embracing non-dualistic Advaita perspective, wherein the knower, the process of knowing, and the known are interwoven. Thus, the concept of transferability in becoming embodies this ontological reconfiguration. Upon arriving at my spouse's family home following tradition, I tipped over the copper pot filled with rice and stepped into a tray of red kumkum liquid, leaving a symbolic footprint as I entered the house. Within the artwork, white organza and paper signified a symbolic fresh start. The transition into in-laws' household reflected patriarchal conventions of the 1980s, where extended families resided as a single unit. My identity was first defined as a daughter-in-law before being acknowledged as an autonomous individual. The copper pot represented prosperity, while the red footprint symbolized wealth brought by bride, red associated with the goddess Lakshmi. It also symbolized the root chakra grounding me in my new home. Unconsciously, I laid a white cloth on the floor, foreshadowing widowhood. At my husband's funeral, the red sindoor and bindi were removed, my red bangles broken, and I was confined to wearing white, raising questions about identity and transformation. Motherhood further refined my role, the rubber duck and abacus in journeying, and symbolized the joy my children brought despite the early health struggles. The gun and bullets represented my husband's violent death, inducing silence and fear as I placed them. The artistic process wavered between internal conflict and catharsis, culminating in a scream that shattered fear and reclaimed agency. The candles glow in the aftermath evoked a sense of peace, shanta, marking a journey of release and transcendence. I don't know how much of time I have to speak about this artwork, or else I can go to the conclusion. Can I continue?
Yes, you can continue, but like almost the time is you can conclude it.
I will conclude. I will skip this artwork. All right. So in conclusion, by transferring rasa into a contemporary decolonial framework, it proposes that identity is not merely a negotiation of colonial residues, but a continuum of becoming that transcends the binaries of colonizer, east-west, sacred, secular. This is a decolonial move, as it disrupts the perpetual deferral of identity resolution in Western post-colonial thought, and it replaces it with an experiential ontology of oneness in Vedic thought. By reclaiming the sacred potential of art, my work actively decolonizes artistic knowledge and challenges the hegemonic Western notion of art as detached from transcendence. This undoes colonial hierarchies that enforce rigid distinctions between theory and practice, intellect and effect, form and experience. This is particularly relevant in the South African Indian context, where colonial structures have historically erased or commodified indigenous artistic spiritual traditions. Transcendental emotional moments, the TEM, within transferability of becoming, further affirms this non-dualistic epistemology, positioning rasa as a mechanism that dissolves subject-object fragmentation and enables the emergence of the interconnectedness and oneness. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Resham, for your wonderful lecture on this subject. This is very important subject which transcends from the colonies to post-colonial and the present conditions and the philosophy which is having a different geographical boundary like Indian context, but it's transcending to the another society also people are experiencing. So this is a wonderful lecture. Many thanks to you. Now I would invite our esteemed scholar, Dr. Julie Rocton. I introduce her. Dr. Julie Rocton is Associate Researcher at CPAF MAM. That is in France. She is Associate Lecturer at the same center in the same laboratory, and she holds a PhD in Indian Studies, specializing in Sanskrit language and literature. which she taught at that the ex-Marshall University, and she has done a lot of work on the in the Sanskrit treatise on dance and theater, and on the repertoire of classical Bharatanatyam dance. And she has done various other works on the in the Indian philosophy. I welcome Dr. Julie Rocton, Doctor, to talk on the topic of description, prescription, teaching, and performance, multiple functions and practices of Nandikeśvara Abhinayadarpaṇa, a co-edited and co-translated polymorphous treatise. You are welcome.
Thank you for this presentation. Can you hear me properly?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, nice. So I will share my PowerPoint. I hope it will work. So this. Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So first, I would like to warmly thank the organizers for their invitation to present my paper today, which is based on my thesis work. So this study is based on a double method. So philological, the study of the text, its manuscripts, and its edition translations, and ethnographic. So I did a field work among Bharatanatyam dancers and teachers in Chennai and Pondicherry. So what text are we talking about? As spoiled in the title, I'm going to talk to you today about a Sanskrit treatise, a Shastra called Abhinayadarpaṇa, which means the mirror, Darpana, of expression, Abhinaya, composed by a certain Nandikeśvara. The treatise is thought to have been composed at a certain time, in any case during the medieval period. So you can see the broad time between the 4th and 12th centuries. The text is polymorphous, but in its longest version, we can say that there are two parts. The first part presents the art of theater and dance and the conditions of its performance. The second part is describing gestures and movements and their applications, so Vinyoga in Sanskrit. Of course, a gesture of hands, the famous hasta, which constitutes the heart of the text, but also head movements, neck, eyes, and so on. This treatise happens to be well known in contemporary India because it is used by practitioners of Bharatanatyam, the classical dance of Tamil Nadu, but practiced all over India and abroad. So in this paper, I will first talk about different written forms of this treatise, manuscripts, vernacular versions very quickly, and more extensively, I will speak about English edition translations. Secondly, we will look in more detail at the content of the text. We will see how Shastra teach and the different natures of the Shastra, of this Shastra. So prescriptive, descriptive, but also performative in John Austin's sense. Finally, we will look at the functions and uses of this treatise in the context of Bharatanatyam. So, the different written forms. It will be pointed out that before the written forms, or concurrently, the treatise probably existed in oral form, but obviously there is no trace. So, manuscripts, according to Marina Oreskaya, who is Russian, there are around 40 manuscripts of this text, and the content of them is very heterogeneous. So you can see on the PowerPoint, some are called Abhinayadarpaṇa, of course, but also Bharata Shastra, Bharatarnava, or Bharatartha Chandrika. Some manuscripts are attributed to Nandi, Nandikeśvara, Nandikeśvara Bharata, but also Parvati. Some are without colophon and contain only hand gestures and their applications. Most of these manuscripts are in Telugu script, and they are spread in different libraries in India. You can see Tanjavur, Chennai, Pune, and Shantiniketan. So, for example, this manuscript on palm leaves is called Bharata Shastram. It's written in Telugu script and contains only description of hand gestures. It's in Idea Library in Chennai. This one is called Abhinayadarpaṇa, written in Devanagari script and includes description of hand gestures, neck gestures, assembly, the Sabha, and at the end, a stanza evoking Rama and the nine rasa. So I collected these two manuscripts among more than two, but these two during a postdoc contract funded by the IFEO in 2020. So quite quickly, I will speak about just present the vernacular versions. So there are vernacular versions of the Abhinayadarpaṇa in Telugu, Tamil, Marathi, and Malayalam, which are not always simple translation, but sometimes recompilations, including translated parts of the Abhinayadarpaṇa and commentaries in vernacular languages. So you can see the details on the slide if you are interested by them. So I will now present more extensively the English edition translations, which are similar to the content of the manuscript, heterogeneous. There are, however, two types of text: those that follow Eki Kumaraswamy and those that follow Manmohan Ghosh. So first, the Mirror of Gesture by Kumaraswamy, but also Dugirala. So this version is an English translation of the Madabushi Tiruvenkata edition, which is a Sanskrit version of the Abhinayadarpaṇa in Telugu characters with Telugu commentaries containing 718 stanzas. So it is important to keep in mind this number. It is the first English translation of the Abhinayadarpaṇa. This edition has a transnational dimension. In fact, the project for this publication comes from Edward Gordon Craig, an English theatre director who asked Eki Kumaraswamy to translate a technical work that would help to find ideas in the East for renewing modern Western theatre. So this fact is presented by Elisa Ganser in her article. Also, Kumaraswamy had the hope that Indian theatre in a bad situation could experience a renaissance in Europe. So also it should be noted that the second edition came out in 1936. And if you read the introduction, you will see that so it was during the revival period of classical Indian dances, and the text is more addressed to Indian readers. So there is a change. Then the critical edition of Manmohan Ghosh. This edition can be seen as a construction, as it was based on only 8 manuscripts and only 2 of them are said complete. The text has 324 stanzas, so it's really different. Mr. Ghosh has also used the Mirror of Gesture and the Sankita Ratnakara, a text with which the Abhinayadarpaṇa shares some 40 stanzas. So it is clear that this critical edition is problematic from a philological point of view. These 2 first editions done by respected authors seems to have opened the way to 2 editing traditions. So a small Abhinayadarpaṇa based on critical edition and a longer compilated Abhinayadarpaṇa absorbing elements from other treatises and even elements from other types of sources such as iconography and dance practice. In the tradition of Mr. Manmohan Ghosh, there are editions by C. Rajchandran and P. Ramachandrasekhar. In the publishing tradition of the Mirror of Gesture, we find the editions by PSR Aparao and Anita Vallabh, which propose a reconciliation between the text of Ghosh and the text of Tiruvenkata. The edition of Anita Vallabh is the longest, with 817 stanzas, and she adds descriptions of the gestures she used as a dancer. So she's a dancer. To recapitulate, the study of these different editions show that we can speak of a network of editor-translators. Each new translator builds on the previous work to propose a version that is somehow co-edited and co-translated with the previous authors. We can also see that it was not only Anita Vallabh who used practice to understand or add stanza. The most obvious example is the treatment of the Katakamukha gesture, whose translation never corresponds exactly to the Sanskrit text, but seek to approximate the gesture practiced by Bharatanatyam dancers. So we can see, for example, that P. Ramachandrasekhar added text in brackets to be able to describe the gesture used in Bharatanatyam dance. So let's go more in the text. So how does Shastra teach from the point of view of the Abhinayadarpaṇa? To answer this question, we will now take a closer look at the Sanskrit text itself. The last stanza of the Abhinayadarpaṇa, edited by Ghosh, says that there are 3 sources of knowledge. So you can see the stanza on the PowerPoint. It seems that these three sources are, of course, connected. So Shastra are in the realm of tradition and must be understood with the help of special humans, kind of guardians of tradition. So the Gulmen sat in the text. Indeed, we can find 14 occurrences of the term smrita. So smrita is the verbal adjective from the root smri. It means literally memorized and can be translated by transmitted by tradition. The agents of this verbal adjective, when they are expressed, can be vises, muni, such as Bharata, connoisseurs of the Natya Shastra, or even elders. Another beautiful stanza explains that the Shastra are like flowers and vises are like bees. So this is like poetry in a Shastra. Then we should note the extensive use of the optative mode and of the verbal adjective of obligation, which seem to have an injunctive value, but it should be remembered that they can also have a potential value. So there is some ambiguity between the prescriptive and descriptive natures of the discourse, and we can see this in the language itself. Let's see a striking example. In this part of the stanza, so here the methodical description of this in order following what is lakshya. Lakshya is a verbal adjective of obligation, and it can mean that which must be seen or that which is observable. And it is not possible to decide between the two meanings. Furthermore, when I check the enunciation verbs, I notice that the verbs expressing employment, yuj, teaching, shas, knowledge, nya, were used in the same way as the enunciation verbs stricto sensu. You can see some example on this slide. Ukta was enunciated. Jnaya must be known, yujyate is used. there is a lot of more examples. So from there, we can say that there is a kind of performativity of enunciation. Saying is knowing, teaching, but also using. So performativity in the sense of John Austin. So now let's move on the last part. Uses of Abhinayadarpaṇa in the Bharatanatyam. So first use, not the nicer maybe, is discrediting and classicizing. The almost systematic reference to this treatise and the development of its use in the Bharatanatyam practice can be seen as phenomena of Sanskritization and textualization of dance that were particularly prevalent in the so-called revivalist period of dance, originally practiced in temples and royal courts. So this is something well known by scholars. Indeed, Rukmini Devi, who founded the Kichenassamy institution in Chennai, wanted to offer an English-style teaching model based on textual support. So you can read Gaston, Koulavala, or Kotari about this. Also, we can observe that the reference to classical aesthetic theories, which are found in Sanskrit treatises, seems to be an essential condition for an art form to be able to claim a certain respectability. Reference to Abhinayadarpaṇa thus serve the discourse of the revivalists by allowing them to classicize the Bharatanatyam, but also to discredit and short-circuit traditional practitioners like Devadasi and Natuvana, until finally being able to do without their knowledge, which is, from my point of view, a huge social problem. So you can read Koulavala, also Avanti Meduri, about this. Tiziana Lucci, also in French. But these phenomena need to be put into perspective. Abhinayadarpaṇa seems to have been popular before the revivalist period, as the number of manuscripts and vernacular versions attests. So now let's look at the pedagogical use, which is the most obvious and known use. So actually, teaching uses are very different from one school to another. While institutions such as Kalakshetra or Kalavardhini in Pune teach large parts of the Abhinayadarpaṇa, some masters, so-called private gurus, use only a few vocabulary terms or just a small part of the stanza. For example, they say only Yato hasta tato drishti. And we can see different forms of the text. The text is used from a textbook, so a small book, is recited or learned orally by heart, or presented in a DVD for the students. So different mediums. And the last use is maybe the most interesting. Some stanzas from the Abhinayadarpaṇa are also choreographed and performed scenically by Bharatanatyam practitioners. So the most popular is the Mangala Shloka, Angikam Bhuvanam. Maybe some of you know this shloka. But also, I will show you an example of a performance of this quite famous stanza more used on teaching context. So this Yato hasta tato drishti, so where the hands is, the eye is. Sometimes it's translated by with the verb go, but there is no verb actually. Where the gaze is, the mind is. Where the mind is, the bhava is. Where the bhava is, the rasa is. So I will show you an example. So it's Rama Vaidyanathan company. She's based in Delhi, so maybe you know her. And you can see. Can you hear the sound? This is not the case for me. Can you hear?
Non, Julie, non, Julie, on peut pas entendre.
Ah, il n'y a pas de son. Ok. Dommage. Ça n'a pas partagé le son. Bon. Okay, so so it's a performance of Yato Hasta. You can't hear the sound, but they are doing the gesture in and it's not a teaching context, it's a performance context. So the Abhinayadarpaṇa, to conclude, the Abhinayadarpaṇa is a polymorphous text. It is not fixed. It is still evolving with current practices, with the phenomena of translation by or with practitioners. We have seen that the text standardizes practice as much as it reflects them as a mirror, despite the fact that it is written down. What's more, the written text does not replace orality, but becomes the medium for oral and bodily practice. Finally, we have seen that the Abhinayadarpaṇa is used to discredit, classicize, and teach, but also as poetic material for the stage. And like example, I spoke about a manuscript with a stanza about Rama and the Nayandarasa, and we can see that even in the manuscript, there is like poetic material used for performance. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Julie Rocton. So you have given a very comprehensive understanding about the Abhinayadarpaṇa, the Sanskrit text, and you have the from different sources. You have tried to explore it from different writers. From like originally it was in Telugu, in Sanskrit language, and in English languages. So it's really very commendable work which you have done, and you have presented it to us. We are very thankful to you for your such presentations. Now, just a minute. Now I invite for the Professor Satyanad Kichenassamy.
Satyanad Kichenassamy.
Kichenassamy, sorry.
It's Kichenassamy, and it's Satyanatha.
Satyanatha.
Right. Kichenassamy.
Yes, yes. So please, sir. So I'll just introduce to Professor Satyanatha. He is born in Paris and is a French mathematician and professor at University the Rams Campaign Ardennes since 1998. Also a lecturer at EPHE. He is affiliated with Laboratory de Mathématiques de Reims. Sir has authored has published many articles, monographs, and 5 books with almost 5,000 citations, recognized among the world's top 2% scientists. He has held position at NYU, the University of Minnesota, and the Max Planck Institute. His research spans nonlinear PD and applied mathematics. Sir, your topic of discussion is Indian knowledge system underlying the invention of rigorous mathematical reasoning. Sir, I welcome you to deliver your lecture. Thank you.
Share my screen. So of course, please let me know in the chat or another way if there is anything. So in principle, you should see my full screen. I hope this is the case. And so first of all, thank you all for your kind invitation, particularly Professor Pranab Kumar. And I'm very happy that you're organizing this conference. It's a truly international meeting, and I think it serves an important purpose. I would like to begin with some preliminary issues. First of all, what I'm going to refer to as Bharat here is the culture that encourages the search for reality beyond social limitations, that would be upadi in the technical sense, on a rational basis, as the word siddhanta implies, in order to relate representation and reality. And the phrase Satyameva Jayate is, I suppose, familiar to all. There are other dimensions in Indian culture, but I'm going to focus on this dimension. And within Indian mathematical discourse, there were several levels of rigor, but here I'm only going to consider the highest level of rigor. And now it turns out that the first place in any culture where we have a rigorous mathematical discourse is in India. And so this raises the question, what are the conditions that have made this possible? And do these conditions and the concepts that are underlying them help us understand ancient and contemporary mathematics? I begin with some context and some references. And then I discussed two basic tensions that are relevant to all of Indian knowledge system, Vyavahara versus Paramartika, and Stula versus Sukshma. And then I talk about two concepts that don't really have a modern equivalent, which are apodictic discourse and heterometry, and I give some concluding remarks. So the message in a nutshell is that, first of all, Bharat is the only culture in which you can follow the transition from non-rigorous to rigorous mathematics. There are places where you have non-rigorous mathematics and no rigorous mathematics. Places where you have rigorous mathematics, but you don't know where it comes from. But in India, we have sources that make the bridge. The second point is that we need, in order to understand that, to understand both ancient and modern mathematics, you need new concepts, and in particular, apodictic discourse, which is a discourse that encodes its own validation through the discursive structure, not as a separate commentary or something else. And the second is heterometry. I explain what it is. It's an original view of the measurement process. So what I'm doing here is summarizing lectures that I have been giving and I'm giving now at the Sorbonne in Paris within the philology department at the PhD. And this is itself inserted in a tradition. First, on a personal level, the question that I mentioned before were basically raised by my father. And then there is also a very important school of Sanskrit philology in Paris, which in particular has stressed that Vedic ritual has a purely rational dimension, especially if you look at a certain procedure called the Pravargya. This is technical, but so there is a dimension in Vedic ritual that is purely about exploring physical reality. And it's a framework for rational discussions of theories about language and also the physical world. The second thing is the concept of yukti, which is an additional pramana that was dropped in later Indian philosophy, which is the need for coherence. When you have several pramana, there are several norms of what is correct, which may be conflicting, then you need to make them coherent. And this is a different thought operation, which is distinct from inference or perception, blah, blah, blah. And so its importance in early Indian epistemology was stressed by Pierre Fillosa, who, as you may know, was recently awarded the Padma Shri. He passed away at the end of last year. The third point is the identification of homologies that led to divesting words from their meaning. So this is something which goes much farther than what you get when you have tropes, when you have metaphors or similar things. Now, our work since 2006 has been to apply philology to mathematical texts. And this has shown that modern concepts are inadequate, that is, they cannot account for the text as it is. And in order to understand the text, you need to put to light elements of Indian knowledge systems. And by doing so, you solve problems that had been open for a couple of centuries. The same approach applies to Savyasaiva philosophy, but I'm not going to talk about that here. So the results are based on very detailed textual analysis that I'm not going to do here. So I'm going to list, I think, 10 papers in which you can find that. So the first point is that the theorem of the square on the diagonal of an oblong, that is what is sometimes called the theorem of Pythagoras, that's actually a late tradition that attributes to Pythagoras. It goes back to Cicero and Vitruvius, but it was derived in India as part of the first rigorous discourse on geometry that we have, which is in the Paribhasha section of Baudhana's Suva Sutra. So this is explained in the first paper that is mentioned here. And the second one from 2006 actually analyzed the last part of that discourse. Similarly, you do have motivated derivations that are embedded in the discursive structure of several other major mathematical texts, in particular those on the cyclic quadrilateral. And also is proof of what is called Gauss's lemma. I'm not going to explain what that is, but it's the fundamental step in the rigorous theory of congruences, what is called the Kutaga. Those who have heard a little bit about Indian mathematics may know about it. And the same it goes for his introduction of algebra as an extension of number systems. Aryabhata's justification of certain identities is also encoded through a very particular way of phrasing the way you state the result actually tells you how it is justified, and you can show that by reading very closely the text. So this is developed in all the papers that you have here. I don't know whether I have a pointer somewhere, otherwise never mind. So you see, oh, I have 2 pointers. Okay. Why there are 2 pointers? Anyway. Also, once you understand what is going on in the Indian context, it gives you ways to understand what is going on in other contexts. In particular, there are theorems from the 19th and the 20th century that you can analyze by using the same method. And it turns out that you can also analyze texts in Chinese that give you information about Indian mathematics in ways that are completely unexpected. So this is explained in this particular paper. And it turns out that even in the discourse of Indologists, in particular, something which is very famous, that people that know French Indology know very well, which is the Manière des études indiennes by Renaud et Filiosa. And you see that if you look at the way it is written in the same style as Indian mathematical texts. Okay. Now, in a nutshell, the basis for rigorous mathematical discourse, as we see in all countries as a result of this investigation, is that it is an outgrowth of the questioning of the relation between language, action, and thought, triggered by doubt about the correctness of ritual. It was made possible by the existence of a safe space for freedom of thought, insistence of coherence, and a very specific operation, which is to divest words from their meaning and reinvest them into another meaning. And this is a direct consequence of the reflexive analysis of ritual activity. And the master himself, that is the relation between Guru and Sishya, that makes the Sishya able to understand many things by himself or herself. So it's a form of empowerment. Of course, the society in those times was, on the face of it, and certainly in actuality, patriarchal in many respects, but it's more complicated than that because there are women in the Upanishads that have equal status with men as far as philosophy is concerned. And also there is a very interesting list of master people, masters and pupils, at the end of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where you have 39 human gurus, and there are also legendary figures, but they are placed earlier, that are given by the names of their mothers, not their fathers or their guru. So there's something very important about the place of women that's going on at this stage of the Upanishadic period. And you see 39, it's almost 800 years if you count 20 years between two generations. Now, next. So the two tensions, I believe this is something fairly familiar, so I go rapidly through that, which is the Vyavahara versus Paramartha. That is, there are things that are accessible to discursivity and intersubjective communication, and there are things that are accessible to personal experience only. Therefore, there is a private domain, and public agreement can only be based on exchange of discourses. And in particular, Vedic ritual is a representation of reality, of aspects of reality, in which action, thought, and language are distinct but correlated. And therefore, if you have found a discourse that corresponds or is correlated with certain thoughts and certain actions, then you can, communicate them and people can talk about them. And of course, mathematics belongs strictly to the Vyavahara domain. And the theory-practice tension is completely irrelevant because sense perception is not sufficient to obtain reliable information, and blind practice is not innovative. From a Greek point of view, this is actually the result of a confusion between two things that mean action, which is the word pratein, simply do something, and poiein is to make something new. The second is also familiar, I suppose, but extremely important, which is the tension between the coarse and the subtle, the stula and the sukshma. And this is the basis of progress, because the way texts are written, they all generally take partial approximate results, and they do not suppress them. They treat them as having historic or heuristic value. And the rigor rests in the inference from hypothesis to conclusions, not in the absolute reality of the hypothesis or the. If you have a result, well, it may be superseded if things become different, if there is new information. So in a real sense, it is tradition that may provide the framework for success. Now, the third point is the concept of apodictic discourse, which is, so let me give some definitions. So an apodictic, it comes from a Greek word, which is apodeixis, which means proof, the conclusive part of a proof in Greek. So an apodictic discourse is rigorous, conclusive, and motivated. And the dogmatic discourse is rigorous, conclusive, but not motivated or given an artificial motivation. And so what happens is that rigorous mathematics is based on derivations, that is, motivated sequences of arguments from assumption to conclusions, which may be rigorous or not, but in the cases I'm looking at, it is rigorous. And this should be contrasted with verifications and proofs, which may be artificial or checked a posteriori. In a nutshell, mathematical reasoning should be described as reasoning, anumana, inferential reasoning on word representations. Now, this, of course, provides a model for a communication, because in apodictic discourse, since you're encoding something, you need the audience to decode. That is, you need the audience to be active. By contrast, in dogmatic discourse, the audience may be passive, or they may even rebel because they reject guidance. And in dialogues, which are very common in commentaries, they are maybe conducive to the removal of doubts, but they are limited because they may be persuasive at best. Thus, you see that a major issue is how do you have freedom of thought? And here, freedom of thought may be granted in apodictic discourse, so won by rebellion, and dialogue may be a form of manipulation. And because of the failure of the Enlightenment paradigm, you see that it's not possible to say that people are going to agree on on a universal truth by dehumanizing everything. And there is no disenchantment of the word because the word is still problematic. So there's really, we need to re-problematize things that used to be thought, considered as clear from a 19th century point of view. And apodictic discourse avoids all these difficulties and is a model for rational discussion. So you see that mathematics, insofar as it is communicated publicly, eschewing authority and manipulation, is an exchange of apodictic discourses. And you see that if you treat the communication as something which goes both ways, in which people have to think for themselves and not to accept something that is ready-made for them, then it fosters the possibility to understand other people. And that's a very essential part of inclusiveness. The second concept that these studies have shown to be absolutely necessary is heterometry. So heterometry is the fact that when you, for instance, measure lengths, but it's probably something that comes from the measurement of time. If you have a standard of length, then the standard of length can be chosen arbitrarily, and it is infinitely divisible. It may be redefined arbitrarily, so that leads to scaling or allometric relations. And any secondary unit that may be constructed may be used together with it for measurement. And that has a very striking consequence, that irrationality is completely irrelevant. And the divide between number and magnitude is also irrelevant because number is embedded in magnitude. And also all consideration having to do with similar figures are, immediate. And Baudelaire does not use fractions, but he used that there is in India a theory of fractions from Aryabhata onwards, which is associated with division as a symmetric operation, which is mutual division. And one can show that actually one is the outgrowth of the other. This is an outgrowth of heterometry plus the introduction of quotient. You have to be careful. Sometimes the division with the quotient is called Euclidean division. It is not in Euclid. What is in Euclid is a subtraction algorithm, not a division algorithm. Some very brief concluding remarks. So first of all, rigorous derivations in Indian texts are encoded through the discursive structure, and though they form apodictic discourses. And public mathematical activity is an exchange of apodictic discourses. This applies to all cultures and fields. I believe I've talked for 18 minutes, so I suppose I have 2 minutes left. Contemporary mathematics fail to account for Indian mathematics, therefore incomplete conceptually, operationally, or socially, and also philosophically. And now we can answer the question that we had before. The condition that make it possible, or the existence of a safe space, the existence of coherence, the possibility to diverse words from a meaning to reinvest them with a new one, and the relevance to contemporary science is that scholarly communication and exchange of apodictic discourses is general fact, and it's possible to teach science on the basis of Indian knowledge systems. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir, for your very good lecture on mathematics and the Indian contribution in the mathematical science, and you have very well connected it. Not it was rigorous mathematics, but it includes the human behavior, how society and how it is rational, and the contribution of the Indian mathematical society. So thank you very much, sir, because we are running the time. So now I invite the next speaker. Just a minute. Let me see. So now I invite Shaumya Verma for her lecture. She is a legal scholar specializing in intellectual property rights. She has done her BA LLB from Dr. Hari Singh Gaur Central University. So she has a lot of work done in the field of the legal and philosophical areas, worked on insolvency and bankruptcy matters at Manuputra Currency Pursuing. The her topic of presentation is harnessing blockchain technology for preserving ancient Indian intellectual property and traditional wisdom. So, Dr. Shaumya, you are welcome to deliver your lecture.
Thank you so much, sir. First of all, I would like to thank Jawaharlal Nehru University, Dr. Pranav, and respected panelist and everyone in JNU for giving me this opportunity to present my paper here. Good evening, everyone, and respected all. I would like to share my PPT here. So, is it visible? I would like to know. Is my PPT visible?
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you. I would like to start my presentation with Article 51AH of Indian Constitution, which states that every citizen of India has a fundamental duty to develop scientific temper, humanism, and spirit of inquiry and reform. What is this scientific temper? It's a way of approaching the world with curiosity, skepticism, and a quest for deeper understanding. Our Indian traditional knowledge, including Ayurveda, Vedic texts, and indigenous practices, is often misappropriated and commercialized without giving the benefit to their custodians and their proper attribution or compensation to the original knowledge holders. Blockchain technology offers an immutable and transparent framework to document and protect this knowledge. This research explores as how blockchain technology can be used to harness, safeguard India's ancient manuscripts and traditional knowledge systems from unauthorized adaptations, commercial exploitations, and cultural misappropriation. In the background, I would like to say that this study evaluates the legal implications also if we incorporate the blockchain technology into our existing intellectual property laws. First of all, what are the key challenges that threaten the integrity of ancient Indian knowledge? So it includes the commercial exploitation. For example, our sacred texts like Srimad Bhagavad Gita and the Purans and the Smritis and the Vedas are marketed as self-help books sometimes and stripping them of their cultural and philosophical depth. There is also has been traced the illegal trafficking of the ancient manuscripts are frequently stolen and sold in underground markets due to poor security and documentation in traditional repositories. Also, it has been seen in the foreign pharmaceutical companies have patented some traditional remedies such as turmeric and neem in the past, which has caused much litigation. Also, the artificial intelligence driven translation tools often misinterpret ancient religious texts and other scriptures, leading to distorted and misleading versions of traditional knowledge. So, what is Indian traditional knowledge system? The Indian knowledge system is a rich and diverse collection of knowledge, beliefs, and practices developed over thousands of years in the Indian subcontinent. It is rooted in the ancient text of Vedas, Upanishads, and Purans, and has evolved through the contribution of various civilizations and cultures. This knowledge system encompasses a wide range of subjects, including philosophy, religion, science, mathematics, medicine, astrology, and literature. It is based on a holistic approach that integrates different different aspects of human life, such as mind, body, and spirit. One of the key characteristics of the Indian knowledge system is its emphasis on the interconnectedness and interdependence of all being in the universe. This is reflected in the concept of Vasudev Kutumbakam, or the whole world is our family. The Indian knowledge system also places a strong emphasis on self-realization and inner transformation. This is achieved through practices such as meditation, yoga, and the pursuit of knowledge and wisdom. Despite the influence of modernization, Indian knowledge system continues to be a vital part of Indian society and serves as a guidance and inspiration for individuals and communities. Its teachings on compassion, harmony, and balance have helped shape Indian culture and continue to influence the global community. So, uh, I would like to discuss that how current legal framework for protecting Indian traditional knowledge system has some of the important acts and the bills and the policies which you can say our Indian government has formed here. So, despite India's rich heritage of traditional knowledge, the legal landscape remains fragmented with different laws addressing various aspects of TK, which we call traditional knowledge protection. So, first is National Manuscripts Bill of 2023. It was introduced in 2023 to establish a structured mechanisms for registering and digitizing Indian manuscripts. It provides for the creation of National Manuscripts Authority, which would be responsible for registering and digitizing manuscripts and providing protection cover to thousands of Indian manuscripts. It is built upon the efforts of National Manuscripts Mission, which was established in 2003 to conserve and make manuscripts accessible. Though the key concern here is, while this is a positive step towards documentation, it does not address issues like ownership rights, unauthorized digitization of the religious texts or other ancient texts, and commercial exploitation of traditional manuscripts. The next one is National Mission for Manuscripts. It was established in 2003 itself by the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, Government of India. It aims to discover, catalog, and digitize ancient Indian manuscripts. It ensures the preservation of manuscripts using modern techniques, promote public engagement through the seminars, etc. But again, the concern is, although NMM plays a crucial role in documentation, it lacks enforcement mechanisms to prevent unauthorized reproduction and theft of these manuscripts. The next one is Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act of 1958. It aims to protect India's historical and cultural heritage. It includes ancient monuments, sculptures, coins, and manuscripts. It defines manuscripts under Section 2B and 25 by categorizing them as antiquities. It restricts unauthorized movement of manuscripts, making it a punishable offense to move an antiquity without permission under Section 30, Clause 2. The punishment includes 3 years of imprisonment or a fine of 2 lakh rupees. However, the key concern here is, while this law provides some level of manuscript protection, it focuses primarily on physical conservation rather than IPR protection, digitization issues, or fair access to the custodians. The next one is Traditional Knowledge Digital Library, that is TKDL, very famous. It was developed by CSIR and Ministry of Ayush of Government of India to prevent biopiracy. It translates and organizes traditional knowledge into 5 major languages: English, Japanese, French, German, and Spanish. This database contains more than 4 lakh formulations covering Indian systems of medicine. It is recognized by WIPO, which is World Intellectual Property Organization Intergovernmental Committee, as a global model for traditional knowledge protection. However, documenting traditional medicines and TKDL does not provide ownership right to indigenous community. For example, if I talk about a tribe which is called Gujjar Bakarwal in Jammu and Kashmir, they have one remedy. For example, they make powder of onion by drying it out, and then they use it orally for curing the snake bites. However, the TKDL does not provide any protection here because it does not talk about the benefit sharing. For example, if in future any foreign entity patent this medicine, then in that case the indigenous community have not been compensated in a uh, fair manner. So that has not been dealt here. Then I would like to say about Copyright Act here. It states that ancient texts in public domain cannot be copyrighted. For example, Srimad Bhagavad Gita cannot be copyrighted in India. But in the case of Bhakti Vedanta Book Trust, the Delhi High Court said that adaptations and commentaries on such texts can be protected under copyright law. Then we have Patent Act 1970. It does not recognize traditional knowledge as patentable because it is considered public domain knowledge. Since traditional knowledge does not fit into Western patent model, many indigenous medicinal methods and cures remains vulnerable to biopiracy. So summing up inadequacies in present law, I would like to say oral know-hows and traditions make it difficult to prove authorship or ownership or custodianship under existing IP law. And TK holders do not have enforceable legal rights over their cultural heritage. Also, misappropriation of ancient manuscripts without benefit sharing. Now, I would like to say that here we can use the blockchain technology to deal with such kind of misappropriation of the ancient manuscript and our Indian traditional knowledge. Now, how? Blockchain is a form of distributed ledger technology that maintains a decentralized and tamper-proof database. Each block in a blockchain contains cryptographically hashed transactions, making it highly secure and immutable. Transactions, once validated, are linked to previous blocks, forming a chain that is nearly impossible to modify retroactively. No middlemen are involved in it, making transactions and data shortage more efficient, data storage more efficient, transparent, and secure. Blockchain can help in creating immutable records for manuscripts, oral traditions, and historical texts, providing time-stamped proof of authorship and provenance, enabling smart contracts to ensure fair compensation to TK holders. I would like to cite some examples where blockchain technology has been used. In Arab countries, the blockchain technology has been used to store hadiths. It has been the hairy ledger kind of technology under blockchain has been used to store hadiths in the blockchain, which makes it impossible to modify. Again, the UNESCO Digital Library and Blockchain Project seeks to create an irreversible digital record of manuscripts. Also, it has been used in the country called Peru in South America to store the information related to the medicines which is derived from the plants. So these are some examples. Now, blockchain application IPR. There are there are other two case studies in which it has been used in protecting microfilms and fashion designs. So researchers have demonstrated how blockchain and Internet of Things can be combined to protect microfilms and fashion designs from unauthorized replication. In another case studies, this approach has been used, out of which one technology is also a subset of it, consortium blockchain is used. It has been used in the case of protecting Holy Bible also. So if there are two examples in protecting Hadith and Holy Bible. So it can be used in the case of protecting the Hindu religious texts as well, I would say, because also I would like to repeat that why blockchain to protect Indian technology, Indian traditional knowledge, because traditional copyright protection does not effectively cover orally transmitted knowledge. Also, no benefit sharing clause. Now, I would like to cite some of the legal implications which could be there when we will incorporate the blockchain in our legal system. So, first issue is definition and ownership issue under Copyright Act of 1957, where copyright law assumes a specific author or creator, but traditional manuscripts are often community owned and orally transmitted. Blockchain timestamps cannot irrefutably establish original ownership or authorship, leading to legal ambiguities. The next one is reproduction right under Section 14 of Copyright Act. Blockchain nodes store multiple copies across a decentralized network. This may create a conflict with exclusive reproduction rights, such as multiple versions of a manuscript may exist across various blockchain nodes. The next one is term of protection and public domain. Under Section 22, which is given, blockchain records are permanent while copyright protection is time limited. There is no mechanism in place for transmitting a manuscript into public domain after copyright expiration. The next one is assignment and licensing. Smart contracts could be used by automated licensing, but written assignments are still legally required under copyright law. Jurisdictional restrictions make it difficult to enforce blockchain based royalty agreements. The next one is fair dealing and fair use clause under Section 52. So, blockchain lacks the ability to apply fair use exceptions dynamically, making it challenging to determine permissible educational or critical use of manuscripts. Key takeaway could be the current copyright law is not equipped with in handling the decentralized and immutable records which is uh, given by the blockchain technology. The other legal implications include following, in which it involves ancient monuments and archaeological sites and remains act. This act prioritizes only physical protection of the manuscripts. However, it does not talk about the digital preservation of the manuscripts. So this is the lacuna here. The another act, which is Ancient and Art Treasures Act, 1972. It does not talk about the cross-border digitization, which raises concern about jurisdictional control over digitization of manuscripts. Now we have Information Technology Act 2000. The IT Act, it does not clarify whether blockchain-based digital records qualify as legal, admissible electronic evidence in the Indian courts. So this is also there. And under the Indian patent law, Indian traditional knowledge evolves over centuries, but Section 3D of patent law requires enhanced effectiveness for patentability. Many traditional remedies fail to meet this criteria, leaving them vulnerable to the misappropriation. Blockchain can record TKS prior art, preventing companies from wrongfully patenting it. However, Section 3P of Patent Act disqualifies patenting of knowledge in public domain and prior art. The other legal concerns include legal validity of smart contracts and the cross-border enforceability, balancing transparency with restricted access, now I would like to conclude here that blockchain can transform manuscript preservation, but current intellectual property laws in India, the cultural heritage laws in India, and patent laws are insufficient to regulate its implementation. Legal recognition of blockchain based traditional knowledge registries is needed to prevent biopiracy. Amendments to the copyright law and patent law and other IP laws may accommodate decentralized documentation. Also, the smart contracts enforceability and jurisdictional clarity must be addressed to fully leverage blockchain for protecting India's intellectual heritage. However, I would like to say here that when I'm talking about the smart contracts, it has not been recognized in India yet, because sometimes in Indian Contract Act, it is talking only about the traditional contracts, not talking about the smart contracts or digital contracts. However, there is a clause in IT Act, that is Information Technology Act, which is talking about that a digital document can be used as an evidence, or smart contract is recognized if it is signed by it has a electronic signature and is authorized by a certified authority under the government of India. However, it has not been enforced much in Indian courts. So we have to see here a lot of scope in accommodating the blockchain technology in the current Indian legal regime. However, it could be very helpful if we want to protect the traditional knowledge of India and especially the ancient manuscripts. So this is all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Soumya. You have delivered a very important lecture on how to protect the Indian knowledge system and the blockchain technology for preserving the ancient Indian intellectual property and traditional wisdom. We often see this knowledge has originally originated in Indian context, but it has been spread all over the globe, and many uh, uh, other people are claiming for that. So this is a very relevant example how the Indian government and Indian society can protect the knowledge system. At least this knowledge are the good and wisdomful for the global people. But the knowledge where it has been originated, they must be recognized. So this is very important lecture. Thank you very much, Soumya. So now I invite, we have another scholar on the subject on the Indian knowledge system, Dr. Virgin Johan. Dr. Virgin Johan holds a PhD in performing arts from University of Paris, and professor has earned a lot of award in the subject. She has done a lot of work, and her rigorous work is on the Indian knowledge system. So now the topic of the scholar is distance in performance from Indian to European theatrical stages. Now I invite Professor Virgin Johans to discuss about your understanding about this subject. Thank you. Welcome. You can unmute yourself, Dr. Johan.
Sorry. Namaskaram. I am very happy to be taking part in this conference. I will share my screen. Here. A minute, sorry. Okay, I will let. Can you see the screen now? I
Yes.
know that it is not in the diaporama mode, but I think that will do. Okay.
Yes.
Is it okay for you?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why it's like this, but okay, that will do, I think. My communication distancing in performance from the Indian to the European stage deals with the contribution of Indian theatre, in particular of Marietta from Kerala, to the study of the aesthetic of theatre. It addresses the paradox of acting in its combination of distancing and identification. So India was the first to understand and theorize the theatricality of the performative event, well symbolized by the curtain. The treatise on theatre, Shastra, especially its commentary by Abhinayadarpaṇa, that Julie Rocton deeply introduced to us, established distancing as the first stage of the aesthetic experience. The spectator has a quasi-direct perception of the stage. He knows that what he will see is half real, half fictional. For example, he knows that the actor is not fully merged with the fictional role that he is playing. This first stage is followed by sympathy, identification, and finally, felicity, rasa, ananda. In other words, the spectator knows that he is looking at a fictional being, but he forgets it because he identifies with the character and the performance. The forgotten but real distance combined with identification leads to the rasa experience. So on the subject, you can see notably Julie Rocton, but also Aline Bansat-Boudon and Daniele Cuneo and Elisa Gunser's works. So Europe was very late to understand the phenomenon of distancing. It is only in the 18th century, through the thinking of the philosopher Denis Diderot, that France understood that the actor and the role are not one and the same, and that there is a paradox inherent in the art of acting. And it was only much later, in the 20th century, that the German playwright and theorist Bertolt Brecht established the theory of an epic theater that no longer conceals the fact that it is theater. I quote a text known as The Street Scene, written in 1938, to which I will return later. Brecht systematized distancing, processes, and effects, alienation or A-effect in English, and asked his performer to distance himself from both character and the drama. Brecht's aim was political, but the Brechtian theory has had a wider influence on European theater up to the present day. In fact, Brecht's theory was inspired by Asian theater, notably by Chinese opera. Indeed, Brecht could just as easily and even more aptly have been inspired by India, in particular by one of its oldest art forms, the Sanskrit theater of Kudiyattam from Kerala. In this presentation, I will demonstrate how Kudiyattam constantly reminds us the latent presence of the performer behind the fictional characters being interpreted. I will proceed in two parts, echoing two important concepts in Brecht poetic. The first part recalls that the Brechtian idea, according to which there is no A effect, distancing effect, when the actor adopts another role at the cost of erasing his own. What he should do is to show the two faces overlapping. I therefore ask, how do the two faces of the performer and the character overlap in Kudiyattam? Initially, one would not really expect modernity from a 1,000-year-old theatrical form whose custodians, the chakyars, who are temple servants, perform together as per the meaning of the word Kudiyattam. The ancient Sanskrit plays element of kavya in some the larger Brahmanic Hindu temples in Kerala. However, already an important character in the whole Sanskrit dramas, the Vidushaka, takes on in Kudiyattam as well as on other Indian theatrical traditions a role of mediator with the audience that echoes that of Brecht's actor. In Kudiyattam, the clown addresses the audience, comments on the dramatic action, and places himself between fiction and social reality. According to the Malayali professor Mundoli Narayanan, in this sense, the Vidushaka is probably the best example of the conventionality of the Kudiyattam theater. Its acknowledgement that it is, first and foremost, theater. But I will try to show here that the conventionality of Kudiyattam primarily relies on another fact, the omnipresent figure of the actor, which can be perceived through concrete signs. Indeed, in every play, the artist appears as a sort of stage manager, director of his own performance and of the roles he plays, whatever these roles are, even if they are gods. This is confirmed by various signs or gestures that are the responsibility of the actor himself and fall into three categories, which can be further subdivided. First, specific codified and conventional gestures organize the performance. The actor's key gesture par excellence, which recurs dozens, if not hundreds of times in every performance, consists in stopping the drum to let the character speak. This hand gesture is called stopping the drum, Kodu Vilakuka, in the Malayalam acting manual, Ataprakaram, that support the performances and explain how to stage the plays. Let's note that it is not Rama or Ravana in the picture who stopped the drum, but the artist who has the power over the drummer and who silences him to let his character speak. This gesture, therefore, denotes the presence of the actor behind the fictional role. In the same category, other gestures separate different functions that the performer assumes during the different steps of the performance. In the Kerala temples, the performance of a drama lasts several days and comprises 4 stages, which involve 3 different functions. In short, without going into too much details here, the performer is first a dancer, Nadan, in the opening rituals. Second, a character, Vesham, presenting the initial dramatic situation. Third, a storyteller, Sudan, in the flashback story, Nirvahanam, embedded in the drama, who explains the initial situation. And fourth and finally is a character, Vesham, once more, responsible for acting out the whole drama. Various conventional gestures separate these functions of dancer, character, and storyteller. To quote just one example, at the end of the flashback, Nirvahanam, the performer hides his face with his hands to remember the text of the play before he comes back to the initial situation of the drama and becomes a character again. This gesture is called to recite with the drum, Kodotukuti Choluka, in the Malayalam acting manuals. These texts also prescribe these separating gestures. A second category of gesture is of a technical nature and concerns material elements such as the costume, the accessory, or stage props, like the curtain and the stool. For example, when dancing, the actor places his upper clothes, uttariyam, over his shoulder in the manner of a Kerala veshti and unties the sides of his long clothes or skirt, poinakam, to encourage leg movements. He also handles uttariyam and poinakam to play characters. For example, to play a Ravana, he put the scarf over both shoulders. And to play a woman, he pulls up one side of the poinakam to recall the Indian sari. The same applies to stage props. In the acting manuals, we read that the actor pulls forward or pushes back the stool depending on whether he needs it or not. For example, in the flashback, he pulls the stool in front of the oil lamp to sit as a storyteller. When he performs the play, he may, for example, push the stool to the side of the stage in the fight scenes or stand on it to make it become a flying chariot. Concerning the curtain, in temples in the past and still sometime today, when the actor did not have 2 assistants, he pulled on a rope attached to a pillar to reveal his character. I don't know if you can see the rope here, so just remove the rope himself. This operation are the actor's responsibility. He acts as a director or manager of his functions, of the roles he plays, and of the whole performance. Furtive gestures and exit from the stage. In the third category, the performer often appears through furtive gestures. They may repair technical problems, for example, such as putting an earring back in place or maintaining the headdress. At other times, they conceal human weakness, for example, wiping away a drop of sweat or hiding a sneeze. Sometimes the actor wipes a drop of sweat with one hand and conceals his meddling with the other. Finally, a technical problem or the need for a break or rest may cause the actor to leave the stage for a short time. This type of exit clearly reveals the actor's presence. Sitting in front of the empty stage while the drum keeps the performance alive, we can recall what Brecht said about the Chinese artist. I quote, he is in no trance, he can interrupt at any moment, he won't have to come on. After an interruption, he will go on with his exposition from that point. Alienation Effect in Chinese Acting, 1937. However, and this will be my first conclusion, the quotidian performer does not have only 2 faces, that of the actor and that of the character. We saw that like Brahma, the mythical creator of Indian theater, who is carved on the beautiful ceilings of the quotidian stages, the performer has 4 faces. Dancer during the ritual dances, kriyas, storyteller during the flashbacks, character in the drama, and actor-director who transforms himself into the various roles and who organizes the performance. In the second part of this paper, I want to underline how the actor combines 3 of these functions when playing multiple roles alone on stage. This type of acting is called pakarnatam. It can be compared with a famous text of Brecht called the street scene. Sorry for my French accent. In this text, Brecht advises the actor to play 2 different roles in the manner of a demonstrator and storyteller. He describes this form of epic theater, as he calls it, as a simple or primitive. However, in Kudyatam, pakarnatam is highly codified. On the one side, the performer clearly distinguishes its function as storyteller, actor, and characters, and on the other, he enters deeply into each role he plays. For example, as a storyteller, he introduces the character of King Dasharatha going hunting, naming him, and setting out his situation. At that time, the king went hunting. Then, as director, he puts his scarf around his waist to show the physical and dynamic nature of the action. He then asks as the king himself, who draws his bow and shoots an arrow at an elephant. He subsequently goes on to name and then play the elephant, etc. Although he performs as an actor storyteller at a distance from the roles, as shown by the storyteller's own narration deixis and the actor's managing gesture, the performer enters deeply into these roles. To do so, he adopts their emotional states, bhava, and specific postures. Here, Kudyatam alternates distance and identification in a rapid succession. So, conclude. Conventionality or distancing does not prevent identification with the character. This paradox can be linked to the Indian theory of aesthetics, which describes the actor as a patra, capable of welcoming roles and emotion without being overwhelmed by them. But beyond the theory, what is specific to Kudyatam is the alternating perception of the paradox, distance on the one side, identification with the character on the other side. This can again be compared to Brecht, according to whom the ruptures help the actor to preserve the unity of the character. However, how can the artists assimilate their roles to such an extent while remaining capable of managing their performance? Beyond the theory, we must recall that the Kudyatam masters and also other Indian dancers, of course, because pakarnatam is not proper to Kudyatam, but it is highly codified in Kudyatam. So we must recall that the Kudyatam masters are well acquainted with the stage, which they have frequented since childhood. Their relationship to acting can be linked to that of a child, while aware of acting out a role, is fully involved in the game. This is to cite the late French professor Georges Banu's word about the older, experienced actors. Moreover, my hypothesis regarding Kudyatam is that the Kudyatam artists' distancing and identification skills is tied to their first stage ceremony, Arangetam. In Kudyatam, for this social rite, the child takes on as their first role the role of a stage director, Sutradhara, as opposed to a fictional role like Rama, for example. This stage director role provides a link between the social person and their hereditary function, here specifically regarding the Chakya masters. The actor has a role, the first role to be performed, and the fictional role. My hypothesis is that this first founding role of stage director will remain present on the stage in the form of the stage director figure in future performances, beneath the subsequent fictional roles. It is thanks to this first role as actor, and a unique case in Asia, that the A or distancing effect is so prevalent in Kudyatam, where it rests above all on the actor, not on assistant as in China and Japan. This first actor character would have been a dream for Brecht. It can also be of benefit to contemporary European performance theorists. Thank you.
So thank you, Professor Johan, so for your extensive study on the Kutiyattam about the theatrical performances, and very well you have like the way you have described this theatrical arts, like how the director and actor all performs all together, and according to the situations they, and now you consider it as a modern theater, and you have also tried to compare it with the very well-known scholar of the Europe, and he has in 1930s has like was very much influenced by this kind of artistic performances. So it's very well explained, Professor. So we thank you very much. And I guess the last the we had one more lecture, but the scholar is not present here, so we have to. So finally, in conclusion, we can say that this was the brainstorming session on the Indian knowledge system from different subjects, different indicators. Like this is from social to philosophy to mathematics to dance to language, like Sanskrit. So it was like uh, most conclusive kind of seminar we are having today. So I would like to thank all the scholars. We have spent your time, and you have like acknowledged the kind of knowledge at the truly at the global level. So I again thank you to all the scholars, and I would just, this is in my personal interest, so if you could share your PPT, I think that would be really
Sorry to interrupt, but
yes.
the schedule which was shared with me and the last presentation was mine. So could you please check the schedule? Has it been cancelled or
Oh,
any
no, no,
issue?
no, 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 no. I'm really sorry. I just got some information at the last. So the
Okay.
last presenter is not able. Sir, please. I'm really sorry.
Okay.
So you can go ahead. Yes, please. I'll just introduce you, sir.
Sir, kindly allow. Sir, kindly allow.
Yes, please, sir. Professor Jurevich.
Allow करने को बोलो. Allow करता. Allow कर.
So please go ahead, sir.
My name is Satyan Sharma. Yeah, the last one. Yeah.
Okay, so sir, please go ahead.
So I'll be sharing my screen. Just a second. I hope it is visible now.
Yes, visual.
Just a second. So my topic is regarding the traditional Bharatiya methods for acquiring and disseminating knowledge. This study is limited to Sanatana Dharma texts, such as the Dharma Shastras and their commentaries, and texts based on Dharma Shastras, such as the Nibandha tradition texts, which came around after like 10th century, 14th century, and later medieval period. And such methods from other traditions, such as Buddha and Jain, could be studied further. So this is the limit of the study. First, what is the purpose of knowledge, and what is knowledge? This is a mantra from the Rig Veda, the last mandala, which tells briefly about what knowledge is. So there's a person who does not know a certain destination and asks the person who knows it, and this transaction between the two persons, which is instruction, it results in the knowledge of the direct path to the destination. So this is the Vedic conception of knowledge. We can broadly divide knowledge into three kinds. This is based on Manusmriti: Vedic, Laukik, and Adhyatmika. The Vedic knowledge is divided into the Samhitas, Brahmanas, and so forth. The Laukik is divided into the Tarka, Niti, Vaidyaka. Vaidyaka means Ayurveda, Shilpa, etc. And Adhyatmik is related or concerned with the self or Atma. Further divisions, this is based on Vallal Sena's Danasagar, specific chapter on Vidyadana or the Vidyadana chapter. The primary knowledge is the Vedas, Vedangas, Puranas, Nyaya, Mimamsa, and Dharma Shastras. The derived knowledge is Ayurveda, Shasya Veda. Shasya Veda is the knowledge of agriculture and Krishi. Then there is Dhanurveda, knowledge of weapons. The others are Kala Vidya, Varta Vidya, and Shilpa Vidya. Varta Vidya is related to trade and business. So these are the various divisions. The knowledges which have been mentioned by name are 21 in this text, Dharma Shastra text. The further divisions or broad divisions are of Shastriya and Laukika. So the Shastriya methods for acquiring and disseminating knowledge are those which have been sanctioned or suggested by scriptures such as Vedas and Dharma Shastras. And the Laukik methods are those which are other than the Shastriya methods. For example, if you have to study Vedas in a Shastriya manner, you have to go through the whole process of Upanayana and the various vratas for a period of say 12 years. But if you study it through study Vedas through the Laukik method, you can merely read books, listen to lectures as we do today in universities. And this I have given the references. You can note them down and check them. Both of these are further divided into formal and informal methods. So the formal Shastriya methods are the following: study of Vedas via Upanayana ceremony and so forth, study of other Shastras via Vidyarambha ceremony, study of Shilpa Vidya, sculpting and so forth, and even Ayurveda sometimes has been mentioned in these Dharma Shastric texts as Shilpa Vidya. This study is done via Antevasan method, which is residential training for 4 to 5 years period, stipulated period of time. Then various kinds of knowledge suitable to a person via Vidya Dana method. So Dana tradition or the Dana Dharma tradition is also with regards to Vidya. So knowledge can also be given in Dana. Then the informal Shastriya methods are the following: Upadesh method. This has been mentioned in the 10th century or the 9th century commentary on Manusmriti, that is of Medhatithi. And Vidyadan, when it is performed without the Shastriya procedure, that is also an informal Shastriya method. Then the formal and informal Laukik methods. The formal Laukik methods is currently prevalent in the higher educational institutions and primary educational institutions of India. It has been sanctioned by the government bodies, the K to 12 method. Then informal Laukik method is the modes of self-study through books and audiovisual media. Formal and informal Laukik study are the self-paced course via NPTEL and such other platforms. Then knowledge and livelihood. So we gain two principles from these texts. The references are in front of you. That knowledge is for all and from all. So knowledge can be gained by everybody and from everybody. There is no boundary. The second point is you can gain livelihood from knowledge, and this is also open to all. Now I'll conclude with some suggestions that India's heavy reliance on only one method, that is the formal Laukik method, should be reconsidered, because it is a very densely populated country, and to democratize education, we need to do a well thought out inclusion of both Shastri and Laukik methods, both formal and informal divisions of both the methods, so that knowledge spreads across social groups. Then, although it is counterintuitive, but religion can also help in this regard, because we have the Dana section, the Dana Dharma section of Dharma Shastras. There, the suggestion is that Vidya Danas in Pathshalas or Vidyashalas, in spaces such as the Hindu temples, could be performed. The Upadesh method is for economical and quicker acquisition of knowledge. So anybody who cannot spend a lot of money and time for acquiring certain amount of knowledge can take refuge in this Upadesh method. Then informal Vidyadana is at a personal level by scholars who are also religious. This is also a suggestion. And mainstream revival of the Antevasana or residential model of training. Further, if possible, hopefully the government could recognize such methods so that there is so that these students who or these scholars who come through these methods become at par with the other scholars. So thank you so much. I'll stop the slide now. Dhanyavad. Just a second. I forgot to share one summary of this. Just a second. So this is a diagrammatical summary of the whole system. You could take a screenshot if you want. And thank you. So this is a formal ending to my presentation. Thank you so much.
Yes, lecture. In fact, it was last but not least. In fact, you have concluded everything what we require for the, like, what is Indian knowledge system, how to disseminate the knowledge, what are the sources of the knowledge, and what is required for the current Indian society in the very complex, is so densely populated. So how to, so your prescription which you have prescribed, that is really commendable. I thank you on behalf of the seminar community and I would request all of the presenters, if you could share your PPT, that would be really helpful for us to keep it with us and to also disseminate it to our students and whoever want to read. So thank you very much. Now I request the coordinator to conclude the session. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, as we end this session, I would like to express my sincere thanks to Dr. Ranvijay sir for chairing this session. His guidance and insights have added great value to our discussions. Sir, we truly appreciate your time and expertise, and a big thank you to all the presenters for sharing your ideas, thought-provoking discussions, and making this session engaging and meaningful. Thank you, everyone, once again. We can end this session formally now.
Photo shoot?
Yes, I guess we should leave now.
Okay, bye. Bye, Sneha.